Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Foxworth Friday. Domonique Foxworth, what's going on?
Not much, man. Getting ready for this weekend. Good times, nice, relaxing, maybe a little travel, you know.
Hey, I'm going to ask you a question that I want to start by saying it ain't no shade.
Okay.
I'm truly asking the question. I'm trying to keep up with the times. So, like, is we doing little bitty chains now?
I've been doing little bitty chains for about, I think during the pandemic, I got bored, grew my hair out, and I saw some people with some little bitty chains on, and I was like, it looked good. So I got me a little bitty chain, and I feel like it's, especially in the summertime, hop in the pool, get out the pool, got some cuts, little bitty chain. I be feeling sexy, man. I'm doing it.
I do feel like we're moving into a little chain era, which is a big change from my late teens and early 20s, where that little chain wasn't doing nothing but get you laughed off the block. Like, the thing that happened in the 90s that nobody talks enough about is like, wow, what a horrible break. Is once these rappers started talking about platinum, when did gold stop being good enough? But what platinum did truly was not usher in the platinum era. What it really ushered in was the silver era.
Yeah. the silver renaissance. Yeah, because wasn't nobody buying no damn platinum. But yeah, I mean, it was the big clothes. It was everything was too much. The chains were ridiculous. Like the clothes, if you see pictures of the chains, I didn't have one of these chains because I refused to wear a fake one, and I couldn't afford to buy a real one. So all my homeboys had the big one where it's like Jesus's face. It was like all the detailed Jesus face with fake diamonds and silver. They was pretending to be platinum, but they were so big, it was like cartoonish, like our clothes.
Yes, it was. But like, I got pictures of me wearing, I got some big silver chains, boy. Oh, yeah. I got a big old silver chain picture. I had somebody go to Mexico, bring me back. I got from the land of silver. You know what I'm saying? It's what they do. I brought that back. We was doing that. And gold just went completely away. That's how powerful rap was. Rap, the only thing that ever shut gold down.
It did that to a lot of things. I know people was mad at Cardi B recently because she was mocking Coach bags, and just like, it's a real thing where all of us had that moment. I don't know what song it was for you where you was doing something. I know people complain about Drake doing it all the time, where it's like, you can't just be shitting on Cheesecake Factory. Some of us still go to Cheesecake Factory. Like, rap music, one song, one line will destroy an entire company because it's embarrassing then to have a lyric associated with the place that you are, or the place you're eating, or the clothes that you're wearing. I know that's true about a bunch of clothes that I thought was fly.
Don't stay at the Intercontinental. Yeah, Drake did that to Drake did that to the Intercontinental. And what makes that so funny is, I'm like, man, you motherfuckers better be happy with the Intercontinental. Like by the time Drake said he wasn't going to the Intercontinental, I'm gonna be honest, I was feeling pretty good about the Intercontinental. Now, I want to be clear about something else. Drake ain't regulating the goddamn thing in this house, just so you know. Like, when Drake say he don't go to the Intercontinental, that makes the Intercontinental a much more attractive location for me to show up. But for the rest of y'all, I'm like, yo, Drake setting y'all down the wrong path. The thing about there was one of those, you was just talking about it, and I was trying to remember
Cardi B, Coach?
Which way it would. No, it was something like in line with the silver and the platinum and all of that. But yeah, no, man, cats decide that we not doing something no more.
We ain't got you. If you ain't got Drake money, it's no shame. We know you don't got Drake money. So like, where he stay is not where you're supposed to be staying. But the thing is, I'm thinking back of my homeboys. I just reconnected with one of my boys that I ain't talked to in forever, and he keeps coming to mind because we was in high school. None of us had money like that. So why are you trying to put on this big Mob Deep ass chain? Like, we all like fell into it. I'm not just judging him, where I was buying clothes that was more expensive than I really could support regularly, but we was all out here front. Ain't nothing wrong with the Intercontinental. Go to Cheesecake if you want. Get you a little chain, get you a big chain.
That's what it was. It was Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, yeah.
The game changed up so fast in 10 years, where Big Boy explained to us that we was simping. if we was taking them to the Cheesecake Factory and letting them order strawberry lemonade and popcorn shrimp. Because you know, if you know, the thing about the strawberry lemonade was no free refills on the strawberry lemonade. I dated a girl in college, and when I say I love that woman to death. But before I got to the point of loving her, she was just a little too pressed about somebody taking her to the goddamn Cheesecake Factory. And I was just like, I ain't never taking you to the Cheesecake Factory. And then not long after that, Big Boy drove it home. We ain't taking them to the Cheesecake Factory, so we wasn't taking them to the Cheesecake Factory. But the Cheesecake Factory was that lick at that time. Fast forward, now we got too much money to be going to the Cheesecake Factory. They don't care how good that bread is.
I feel like we touched on this a number of different times and like how music was really great in some ways and how music really changed some things. But you're just talking about simping. And I guess it's a different culture now, which is probably a little healthier. But I was proud of not spending any money. And I was like embarrassed, which is like a kind of a despicable way to go about life, where I was like kind of embarrassed if I took somebody somewhere or spent some money on somebody. And it was like kind of a shitty way to be. And unless they like earned whatever cred, there was your main something you was really shooting. But everybody else was like, nah, I can't spend a dime on them. It's just really messed up.
I had to take some steps, man. I had to learn some things about that. The Joneses are not really like, we're not gift givers. Mm. That's just not the way that we really express love in the family. It's just not what it is, right?
Y'all love Christmas.
My mom, yeah, we do. But my dad talks about Christmas. My dad really like looks back very fondly on Christmas, and they was poor. Like, forget about this broke, right? Like, they were poor, and how they would get fruit and nuts for Christmas. And that would be the thing that they look forward to, is that's what they would get. But that's just not how we get down. And on top of that, early on, my daddy told my mama that Valentine's Day was a white folks holiday and opted out.
It's a strong move.
He just opted out. Like, I try my best to remember to call my mom on Valentine's Day. I need to do better about sending something. He just opted out on the whole idea and put it on the revolution. He said that was a white folks holiday, and that was that. There was no more Valentine's Day. And my mama grew up with a gregarious, like, warm father. It was just her and her sister. Right. Uh-huh. So he's doing Valentine's Day. He's coming through. She was like, my daddy always did something for us for Valentine's Day. This man came in here and said, I ain't no white man. And there wasn't nothing cracking for Valentine's Day. I say all that to say I had to learn that, like, what these cats was talking about on these records, they probably wouldn't live, I don't think Snoop really was like 7-Up. That never have, never will. Like, I don't think this is. And dude, Snoop was like, Snoop just cared. It was just taking him to dinner. That was it. Dinner. Like, we're not doing any of this, right? Now, I learned to step out a little more as I had a woman who was a bit more giving herself. And I was like, oh, I didn't know people did this, right? Yeah. Like, I just didn't. And on top of it, we were the people, we weren't rich, but relative to my peers, we were the people who had money. So I sure didn't understand, like, how y'all even got money to be throwing around and stuff. But anyway, I readily acknowledge my generosity in those ways, shall we say, definitely increased as I got some money, right? Like, I think I was much more on the juvenile program. I was fixed. Hey, he said he was doing. I wasn't doing this. He had fixed up that house up and had him living swell. Yet and still, a player like him was eating at Taco Bell. That was not going to be me, because juvenile did that. So hopefully I wouldn't have to go through that, right? But now that I don't have to worry about that, I'm a little nicer.
Yeah, no, I think it was like, it's like everything else from that time. And I guess maybe when we get far enough distance from this time, we'll look back at parts of this that was ridiculous, and maybe we can pick those out now. But everything else was like overdone, like oversized. The chains was too big. The jewelry was too big. We all had, or not all of us, but I had some fake diamond earrings that looked like they was like 2 carats a piece. The clothes was too big. We did everything at an extreme. And like the idea of spending any money. It wasn't about whether you had it or not. At least for me and my friends, and we were young and dumb, you would get like roasted. Like, oh, you had to take her to this to get that? Oh, you ain't got no game. It was almost embarrassing that you had to do something like that, which was really gross. It was really fucking gross. But
yeah,
I can't lie. I had some stories. I come back and be proud of it. Be proud as hell. Like 2 hours, Meta, 2 hours. That was it.
But we was also broke.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like we can't ignore that part. We was also broke. Like when you ain't got no money, man, it just ain't.
It's a maybe it's a rationalization. It's like, no, I actually can't afford this, but I'm gonna say it's because I ain't no simp.
Yeah, but I will say this: it ain't tricking if you got it. Somewhat true, not entirely, right? Right. We would say that, but I will say tricking if you don't have it. I judge. I judge really, really harshly.
Yep. You don't want to get used to the point where you can't eat. That's not going to be okay.
Yeah, like I think that's the question that you get to in this case. Is like you talk about the context of using. Like, is it just on your spirit, or is Geppetto up in here making it happen with you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the difference, man. Is I think that we thought, at least me and my friends thought, that if you were giving something to somebody and she wasn't like, you weren't in love with her, that you was getting tricked. You was getting used because all the rappers told us you ain't had to do that. They told us that's not what real G's was doing. You just had to have some game. You spit some game, and that's all you needed to do.
And they was like throwing about the cars.
Yeah.
Like the whole Dr. J suite of videos, throwing about the cars, hitting them with the shaking up 40s in front of everybody.
Ain't no fun. I mean, it's a damn bop. And everyone's singing along to Ain't No Fun.
Dude, they're all bops. Like
it's despicable. Like, think about actually saying that. Like, oh, you came over for me? Well, you know what? It ain't no fun. Oh, for real? Oh, you not down? Scram. What? I mean, like, what? We danced to it.
Domonique, they got a song called Bitches Ain't Shit But Hoes and Tricks. And guess what?
Bop.
Guess what? Bop. It jams. It jams really hard. I'm not saying it's appropriate. Yeah. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying any of these things are right. I'm also not lying.
I feel like it's the power of music is something else. It never quite hit me, but you could get people to do anything if you put the right beat behind it. You get a nice bass line.
He ain't talking about me.
Classic Chris Rock, yeah.
Hey, man, and forget Chris Rock. I've heard that in real life so many times. Don't nobody want to have to turn down a bop. Because look, man, when Ain't No Fun, the homies can't have none comes on, the dance floor fills up. And I'm just telling you, right? I'm not saying there ain't no women who don't approve of that approach. I'm just saying I would be reluctant to advertise at the party that one is my jam.
Yeah. And the songs make it clear. And so, like, yeah, before we get off into a whole nother ridiculous tangent, maybe some people enjoy being treated in certain ways. That ain't up to me, whatever, knock yourself out. But that is never expressed in the song. It also feels kind of like the point is that they don't, and you can make them anyway because you got so much power. Like, that is the undercurrent of the song, that they are property. And it is gross.
Yeah, like ain't no, and the thing that makes Ain't No Fun such as, I guess we're gonna talk about this a little later. We'll tell you guys about this in a while, but like, that makes Ain't No Fun so wild is Ain't No Fun is such a jam that it don't really say nothing if somebody comes out there, right? Yeah. It's not quite the same as when that Akinelli come on and you like, oh, okay, that's you? Oh, what's up? That's what's up, right? That's like the Akinelli come on, that's like y'all was listening to Lil Kim hardcore on the way to the club. What? That's what's up. Y'all trying to go to Waffle House?
I mean, I guess that's slightly, the Akinelli is different, but you said Lil Kim, and then it started making me think of like contemporary women rappers and like there's something different about you saying this what you're going to do, or you saying you have something that is so powerful, or you saying that you enjoy multiple partners. Like, go ahead. I think that's what's missing from the other song. They needed I guess Akinyele did have a woman's verse, but they need a women's verse and Ain't No Fun. Or it's like, there is lots of fun in doing the things that I would like to do because I have chosen to do this.
Yeah. Let me tell you this. I can't imagine a worse idea in this world than showing up in a room full of them dudes to perform that song. You better not come by yourself. Like, let me tell you, Nate Dogg, rest in peace. The level of Nate Dogg nostalgia. Nate Dogg got a song where he say the whole reason that he carry a gun is because he got so many women on his jock. And I'm just trying to figure out why that means he got to shoot them. What are you talking about? Go listen. I think it's the second verse of Ain't No Love. And it's like, bruh, why I don't understand why this necessitates a firearm.
Oh, gosh. I mean, maybe it was a euphemism. I don't know. I don't think you ever had to shoot him. And I've seen Nate Dogg. Again, rest in peace.
We're going to make a hard turn here, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know. I don't know how we wound up in here for 15 minutes, but it happens. But Shohei Ohtani and his gambling situation has been reported by ESPN. I'll let you guys know we're recording this on Thursday. You're getting this on Friday, so something may have happened on the in-between. And I am hoping, Domonique, in the in-between, something happens that explains something to me because I want to let the people know something, and then I'm going to have to do something right quick, okay? The report we got is that the Dodgers fired Shohei Ohtani's interpreter because there was some issues with $4.5 million of wire transfers from Ohtani's bank account to a bookmaking operation. All right. And so there's this other investigation that's been going on, and this got caught up in this. So as this has happened, Ohtani's people get this interpreter to sit down with the reporter named Tisha Thompson from ESPN, and he lays out in what is described here in great detail that Ohtani had given the interpreter the money so that the interpreter could cover the gambling debt. Then, when they're getting ready to publish the story, Ohtani's people said, no, none of that is true, and that Ohtani would put out a statement. And then Ohtani puts out a statement, or his people put out a statement that says that they found out that actually Ohtani had been the victim of theft to the tune of $4.5 million. Okay. So what they are saying is, at first, they were saying Ohtani gave Buddy the money to pay off his debts, $4.5 million. And then they said, no, that actually what had happened was Ohtani had been stolen from. Okay. Now, I'm going to need to start over the show right fast because if I'm going to believe this, I need to change something up with the way I start the show. I start the show the same way every time, but I'm going to just act like I believe this, so I'm going to have to start over, okay? Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Boo Boo the Fool. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Thanks for listening on your podcast, because these motherfuckers must think I'm Boo Boo the Fool. Domonique, who worked for you that got access to steal your interpreter? Like, I know I ain't got one of those, but I'm just saying, who else? Can I get an application to work for him? Because apparently you got access to $4.5 million.
So moving that amount of money, and I've heard people say like Shohei made so much money, so that ain't nothing to him. Maybe it's not. However, you know who it's a lot to? The bank, your accountant, like anybody who is watching this money move. So that ain't your interpreter. Like, maybe you could get you give your agent power of attorney, or your accountant power of attorney, or somebody like that. Like, I seen broke. I see how it can happen. Yeah, it's reasonable. Somebody could get scammed out of money, especially when they are in a country they are not like proficient in the language. Like, I get how that could happen. If it's your accountant, they could steal from you. I have a hard time why your interpreter even knows where you bank at. I mean, I guess maybe he came with you to talk to the teller that one time. I don't know. Like, that to me seems like a stretch. And I'm assuming that it's because if they don't want him tied to this illegal activity in any way. And if you're willing to cover somebody's debt, and that's a whole nother leap that I believe that they must believe we are boo-boo the fool to accept that leap also. But let's accept that it's the Interpreter's debt. Then are they saying that Ohtani, by paying it off, is somehow connected in some way? Because I don't understand the reason for this particular lie. Like, I get the reason for saying that it's not Ohtani's gambling debts in the first place, which who knows. But I don't get the reason for this lie. Like, I gave my dog a gift. My dog called me, and he ain't tell me why he was in trouble. My dog been looking at me for a while. He said, I'm in some hard times. And that's where he messed up. Or he said I'm in some hard times, and he said, wire this money here. And I said, I got you, dog. That's all I'd have said.
Didn't ask no questions. That would have been, I think that's the way to go about it. Hey, when my friends say they need help, I help, right? Because, I mean, look, as things stand presently, his argument is, in fact, I am Shohei Ohtani, first ballot homeboy Hall of Famer, right? Like that is what he is saying. He is a charter member of the homeboy. He right there next to, what was my man's name? Greg Anderson. You remember him? Barry Bonds homeboy that did time for him?
Yeah.
Whew. Time.
I was thinking about AC.
Oh, I mean, AC is, in fact, it is the Al Cowlings homeboy Hall of Fame. Like, now that you bring that up, with the funniest line of all lines in the whole O.J. Simpson situation. This AC, you know who I am, God damn it. No, actually, no idea. Never heard of you before today, AC. Never. You remember that part in the 30 for 30 where they said that they had this starter's pistol in high school, the dude that had the voice like this.
Yep.
And he said he had the starter's pistol, and they would just be playing around, clicking that starter's pistol at people, and they went to put it at OJ, and the AC stepped in front and said, "You're going to have to kill me before you shoot OJ."
Hall of Fame. It's named after him. They're going to give the award at the end of the ceremony. Is called the AC. Who is going to get the AC this year is Shohei Ohtani.
We need to start giving, you know what? That's what we need to do. We need to give out the AC every year. We need to get on it every year, put together your compilation, and then at the end of the year, me and Domonique go get in tuxedos and we go hand out the AC. And you know what? It may be anticlimactic right now because it might be going to Shohei Ohtani. But the reality is the only reason we're willing to entertain this at all, it's about the way that we think about Japanese people, right? And what I mean by that is we act like Asians generally, like in our largely xenophobic society, right? Our Asian brothers in so many ways, brothers and sisters, are so different, right? Like religiously, completely different, right? Phenotypically, like just the look, right? I mean, for lack of eyes, okay? You know what I mean though, right? Like they feel more like outsiders to people than I think, like even like black people who come from the Caribbean or from Africa or whatever, they're by and large coming in a Judeo-Christian thought, come from that Muslim.
We're
like it,
accustomed to Western influences, and they don't have it. And so that's simple as that. Like cultural and intellectual and spiritual, all of the influence we're accustomed to are Western, and that's good for Africa. That's good for Europe. That's good for America. But Asia's different.
Yeah, it's different, right? And so we tend to like mythologize them in some interesting ways. I think in large part because we watched all them Kung Fu movies, right? Like we have a tendency to think of Asians as being very solemn and very noble, right? With a different strain of morality, right? Because we've been watching all that karate, man. Everything got a moral to it, a lesson, right? You know, dudes be talking slow and all mystical and shit. Like, I think that's the way that a lot of people view Asians in this society. What I'm saying says nothing about what Asians actually are, because as far as I can tell, they what they call people, right? And people mess up and do stuff like get caught up in gambling or whatever it is. But the ignorance that they are trying to play out right now, you can only think that works if you think these silly Americans are going to believe it. That is the only way. Like, you got to be out here, like, he don't really be speaking no English. We don't know. Like, you know, like, you'll hear people when they talk about, like, Japanese folks, and they'll talk about, like, the significance of honor in their society and everything else. Our society, at least on paper, care a lot about honor, too. Like, these are not things that I think are different than the rest of the world. But if we get a guy, especially if he doesn't ever talk, we think about him in those terms, right? Like, and that's the only way I feel like you think this nonsense is getting past me. Like, maybe what they saying is the truth, but I'm going to need some proof.
When you said it's getting past me, it reminded me of the thing that you bring up sometimes, and like the stereotypes around black people is how you get away on the dance floor every now and then, where you walk in and they're like, oh, that must be the move. Really, you out there doing some old funky move that ain't nobody seen, ain't nobody copy, but since you doing it, it's okay, because that's how people view black people. But the Asian stereotype is a real thing, and they people. Just because we only like see certain ones, we only show certain ones, or we convince everyone that they are either math geniuses or philosophers who speak in philosophy all the time. That's just because it fits well into our narratives. We know that if we're telling a story in a movie, if we put a black person in this role, you all automatically going to assume some things, and we can take out a couple lines of dialogue. The same thing for Asian people.
I will say this before we go into break. This reminds me of a case with another Asian hero, Tiger Woods. Oh, yeah. And I remember when the reports first came out, right, with Tiger Woods in the driveway, which, by the way, 15 years ago in November. You weren't expecting that, were you? 15 years ago in November. Right. And we still thinking Tiger gonna get it back together. 15 years ago since November. And we still, like me and Vinny were talking about, when did you finally give up on Mike Tyson? We never gave up on Tiger Woods. Anyway, the first reports were Tiger Woods was seriously injured in a single car accident in his driveway. And I heard that and I was like, oh, no. More is on the way.
Yeah.
More is on the way. That does not add up. Single car accident, serious injury, driveway. No, sir. You ain't say nothing about him running into the actual house. No, sir. That is not what happened. And that's how I felt this first run of this.
And then Tiger came out and gave us a press conference and tried to use all the stereotypes in his favor again. That man brought out his Asian mama and started talking about Buddhism. And that was how he tried to rid himself of whatever stigma came with it. Was like, oh no, I'm not Black Tiger. I'm a Buddhist. I don't do things like this. I'm going to recenter myself. I don't do this.
Actually, that is the play he should have made coming back out. He should have come back full Buddha.
He did. Like, he did in the press conference. He talked about, well, I guess you mean like just fully like lean in the way that people who get out of jail.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly it. He needed to be like when Mike got out of jail. Right. Mike Tyson came out of jail with a kufi and Mike Tyson came out of jail with a kufi, a tattoo of Arthur Ashe, and a tattoo of Che Guevara. Mike was in there reading anything they put in front of him. Mike was reading every book he could get a hold of. Because that's the thing about Mike. We treat Mike like he's not smart. Mike is actually seems to be a clearly bright young man. Mike got out of jail. Mike had just been occupied himself, because otherwise he'd have beat 10 people to death if he wasn't just sitting over there in the library, reading the books, doing push-ups, reading the Quran, and just figuring whatever else he could.
Who gets Arthur Ashe tattoo? That's just he was like, I don't even know what inspires you. Don't he got a Mao tattoo too? Don't he got like?
He does have I think he did have a Mao tattoo. Gosh, I'm gonna tell you this. I could be wrong, but I think Mike's heart might have been broken if he found out what Arthur Ashe thought about him. I told you the John Chaney Arthur Ashe story, right?
No.
I was at an NABJ event. We gave some award to John Chaney, and John Chaney was telling some story about talking to John Thompson about some interaction he had with Arthur Ashe, and he referred to Arthur Ashe as being, I believe, persnooty was the way that he referred to him like 2 or 3 times. And John Chaney said, and I quote, "I won't tell you what I said about Arthur Ashe because he's dead." Prize Picks is the most fun you can have by winning up to 25 times your money. Prize Picks not only makes playing daily fantasy easy, it also makes using responsible gaming tools easy as well. You can set up alerts, limits, timeouts, and more in just a few clicks. Whether it's an alert that lets you know when you have placed a certain amount of entries, limits that cap the number of entries, or deposits you can make during a period of time, or timeouts that allow you to take a break from Prize Picks for as long as you need. Prize Picks wants their members to have easy access to the resources required to support their fantasy sports experience. Learn more at prizepicks.com/responsible-gaming or directly in Prize Picks first-in-class member support help center. And make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Spring is around the corner, so get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays offers a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have plenty of styles and colors to choose from, so finding your next pair of shades is a breeze. Plus, if your shades go MIA or take a hit, don't sweat it. They've got lost and broken protection, so you're covered from day one. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. If you don't love your shades, exchange or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code Bomani for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. What would you do with an extra hour in your day? Some of us would use it productively to exercise or get more work done, while others would use that extra hour to get some rest or do something you enjoy. I know my producer Sean would probably be on the golf course with that extra hour. The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. Therapy helps you find your strengths and also your weaknesses so you can make the best out of any relationship in your life. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bomani today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bomani. One of the best parts about my recent trip to Iceland was getting a chance to snowmobile across glaciers in parts of the world I never would have been able to see. Traveling is all about new experiences, and Viator is the perfect app to help you do that. Viator is a website and app where you can book travel experiences like museum tours or get access to great restaurants in new cities. They offer everything from simple tours to extreme adventures. With over 300,000 bookable experiences in 190 countries, there's something for everyone. Plus, Viator's travel experiences have millions of real traveler reviews, so you have the information you need to book the best activities for your trip. When you book a travel experience with Viator, there's always flexibility and support with free cancellation, payment options, and 24/7 service. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. One app, over 300,000 travel experiences you'll remember. Do more with Viator. Man, I gotta admit, we had to take that break just because we had stuff to sell, but I do think we had other jokes, but we're kind of downplaying the best player in baseball is ensnared in a ginormous gambling scandal. Guys, it's going to be a thing, guys. It's going to be a thing.
I don't care, though. Like, I'm interested in it being a thing. I'm going to follow the story. But, like, gambling, the way that we view gambling has changed so much that, like, his worst crime is being a bad gambler?
No, I think that's incredibly short-sighted.
Okay,
like,
so please.
I think I think these are big deals that are significant threats to the integrity of these games, because this is, the comparison between like the rush of gambling and the rush of cocaine use, and people talk about this, and physiologically, they're very similar. Here's the difference though. If you owe your Coke dealer, call it $10,000, that next hit of Coke does not have the chance to erase your $10,000 debt, right? This just becomes a cycle, and it goes and it goes. And then all of a sudden you wind up with people who owe a lot of money. And what are they willing to do to get that money? Like, I think that there's a public health situation that is coming. And you're right, $4.5 million, not really that much, but there's, for a guy like that, but there's no telling where it goes. Like, this number is probably exaggerated. But did you see the story about Bruno Mars?
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
With MGM. First of all, this is why I got to stay off the tweets, because again, it makes me judge my friends.
Yeah.
And I have my friends pop up. So the report is, or somebody put out a report that Bruno Mars owes the MGM like $50 million because he'd be in there playing poker and losing money. And the first response that I saw people give was, well, hold on. Does this mean we might get a residency? How you think he ran up the $50 million debt? He's been doing a residency for 8 years.
Yeah.
You don't care if he's doing a residency. Otherwise, you'd have been seeing that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just like, man, y'all just do it. And to try to make yourself seem cool by saying you like Bruno fucking Mars, like of all the ways to try to signal coolness is, and look, I don't dislike Bruno Mars, but come on, man, come on, man. But they're like, yeah, but it's easy, man. I do not believe for a second the MGM he owes them that much, and the reason is, and I had to look this up. Apparently, every chip, unlike the bank, every chip that a casino gives out, if they give you a $5 chip, they got to have $5. Because my thought was that they could just, like every other financial institution, just say, here, Bruno, here's $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? And then he goes and he blows the $1 million, but you never had to have the $1 million in the first place. And now you just created $1 million. That was my thought. But no, apparently you got to have the money on the front end. But all that to say, let's say Bruno Mars owed them $7 million, which is possible. Hey, man, Bruno Mars going to be playing the park for the rest of his life under them circumstances. Because he's going to keep getting in there. He's going to keep playing. He's going to keep losing. Do you remember what was the general's name? David, the one that had to quit because he was cheating on his wife. Petraeus.
Yeah.
Yes, Petraeus.
Oh, yeah.
The issue on that with cheating on his wife is not that cheating on your wife is such a terrible thing, but that makes you prone to compromise. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the same thing we're talking about when all of a sudden now these people, and remember, he was gambling with illegal people.
Right, yeah. And so there's no evidence that he's betting on baseball, right? Like, I didn't see that. I skimmed the story quickly. Correct. I didn't see that. But, I mean, and then there's betting on baseball and there's betting on his own games. Those were the things that I was looking for as I was skimming this article before we started the show. I didn't see anything like that from him or his Intrepreter. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. And then you think about the money, the size of the money, and how much he has. I'm like, all right, we cool. I started thinking Michael Jordan. All right, man, like you're a competitive sicko, and it's fine. There's good that comes with that. There's bad that comes with that. It seems like he's going to be okay. To get to the point where you are compromised, and yeah, I mean, considering a bunch of the sports media industry now is connected all the way up to ESPN's connected with gambling companies. It's an interesting conversation when you bring up the addictive properties of all of that. But there's a lot of things out here that are dangerous and addictive. And I guess what you're saying is fair for me to say, all right, I see that there could be a problem. It don't feel like it's a problem yet. And you shouldn't have to wait till it to be a problem before you address it. But he a grown-ass man. What I'm supposed to be all caught up in this case for California? Like, y'all better get him. You better get this man who gambled 40 cents worth of his money away. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, but see, I don't look at it through that lens at all of like, oh, I hope the law gets involved. Like, I don't care about that part.
Yeah.
Like that, whatever. They going to deal with that sort of thing. Yeah. He's okay. And this as a harbinger of things to come. Now, right fast for everybody. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy company, which is not the same thing as gambling.
Different.
But I will make this point so that everybody understands it. We are in a trick bag because gambling they're floating sports media right now. they are floating in a lot of ways the leagues. That is the money that is powering this whole thing, even though those companies aren't making money yet in most cases. They're playing the same game that like Uber played, where if we can just get the whole market, then we'll get all this money. But they're not really making money yet. My man Jay Caspian Kang made the point on Twitter. He's like, hey, man, this might be a bubble. And if it's a bubble, everybody's going down. And I think he is 100% correct about that fact. I think this is the beginning, I guess is what I'm saying. This is not the last story that we're going to have about somebody being involved in something like this. There is a larger societal issue that's going to be dealt with. But, I mean, in the 1960s, they had to put Paul Hornung and George Papadopoulos out the whole NFL behind the gambling. And I think that something like that might happen now, except the problem is the gambling is now funding everything. Right. So how exactly do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, we see the NBA having these challenges where they're trying to crack down on their players in that way, but they're also opening new ways to do in-game betting. It feels like hypocrisy in a way. And maybe you'll talk to me, you'll help me understand why everyone is so bothered by this, but like, it doesn't bother me nearly as much as it does other people. It's like, yeah, when you do certain things, you can't do other things. It makes sense to me.
No, that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, like when people say, but you won't let the players bet inside the facility. Okay, go home and bet on college basketball. Like, none of this bothers me.
No, have you ever heard of insider trading? Like, there's levels. There's some things you can't do. Like, and for the money that they make, I think it's an appropriate trade. We don't think it's appropriate for you to do this. How about this? I imagine that if you work at, call it Seagram's or whoever owns Seagram's now, you can't drink at your desk.
Nah, agreed.
Right? Like I imagine now, back in the day, it may have been different, but now you work at Philip Morris. You can't just smoke a cigarette out here in your cubicle.
Right.
Like, no, like there's some things that you cannot do.
Those things are like dangerous to those individuals. This is dangerous to the whole industry that you just pointed out is kind of becoming a major pillar for sports, entertainment, and sports altogether. So one person could potentially have an issue so large that it shakes the foundation of all of this, because this is all based on the fact that we all believe that it's real and true and everybody doing their best. Like, if you shake that like everyone talk about integrity of game, and it was a stick that Roger Goodell used all the time. And when I was at the Union, it would annoy the hell out of me, but it ain't a joke. They would use it sometimes in times when it didn't matter, but the integrity of the game does matter, because that's why this entertainment is good, because it's believed, and that's why it's the only entertainment that people go tune in, because it's not scripted. It feels real, legitimate. If we got to the point where like this is no longer our control, we can DVR that shit and not watch it, not care.
And I think like the NBA, I was talking to somebody about this. I think it was Bob Bulgaris, but he was making the point, and I think it's a fair one, that the NBA has gone super moral, right, at various points. I mean, this is the league that went so far as to put Black Lives Matter on the court. Whether you agree with the approach or whatever it is the league that wanted you to know as much as anything else that it had a conscience. And I would make the argument the NFL does the same thing too, just in a different way. It feels more cynical, but all that American flag stuff and everything else in the military, like they're telling you, they're projecting a morality, right? Like you can't ignore the fact that those leagues are intentionally projecting a morality, and now they're giving you gambling. And the idea that they're going to put it in the league pass that you are able to gamble, I swear, it's not why anybody got into this, man. This is going to go down ultimately the way the NBA has embraced gambling. It's not going to look great historically for Silver. It's not going to look great historically, I think, for any of these people. Like this is just not the reason that people got involved. I don't have a problem with gambling in principle, in the same way I don't have a problem with cocaine in principle. I just know it's really, really dangerous for a lot of people to engage in it, on top of the fact that it's now going through a phone, which is designed to be addictive. All these apps are designed to get as much a proportion of your attention as possible. So we're compounding all these things. And that's why when it gets to the level of, say, Shohei Ohtani, I'm like, no. We need to get in here. We need to really talk about what it is that we're doing right now.
This is like a multi-part conversation. You said like 10 things that I can't even keep up with wanting to respond to. But so to continue with a gambling analogy, the deck is stacked a bit when you bring up the phone's addictive nature and the addictive nature of gambling and the risk that it can present to people. The deck is stacked against a lot of people who don't necessarily have a lot of control. And you said like cocaine, like, yeah, but cocaine is not legal. And if it were, it wouldn't be like administered through a phone in a way. But anyway, I don't get too far on that analogy, but like that is why it is partially very scary. At some point, we get back to the Ohtani stuff, but oh yeah, the marketing. So like you talked about messaging, moral messaging, like, yeah, these companies are just marketing. They want you to think that in order, and this is something that we dealt with when I was at the union at the NFL, is we had a rash of player arrests connected to that All-Star game that we talked about in Vegas. And
never happened. Yeah. What All-Star game? It never happened.
Yeah. The one that never happened. So behind closed doors, we would have conversations, and then there was even more closed doors and smaller groups where it was like, look, don't nobody want to associate, and everyone recognized this from the NBA, the David Stern era, and the dress code. Don't none of these companies want to associate with something that feels like it is too black, too violent, too young, too liberal. Like, these companies are trying to associate with something so that they can like coast off of that in order to make a bunch of money. So a lot of the penalties in football for behavior is not because the NFL is some moral arbiter. It's because they want to be viewed as a upstanding place where bounty wants you to associate those things together. So this move with the NBA, where they seem a lot more progressive in their causes, like I believe that they recognize that they were a younger skewing league, and they recognize that their direct competition is the NFL. We can't out NFL the NFL. I believe that part of it was around what was happening in the world, but part of it was like, all right, we're going to be the younger, hipper, cosmopolitan league that is progressive and is not going to be out here promoting all this more conservative stuff. They took that risk. And they did not accompany it. And I don't want to say that the issues that the NBA is having is connected to that, but I would not say that it's not at all, where a lot of the people who would want to be associated with it are like, nah, that ain't for me. That ain't my league. But there's a bunch of other problems with basketball too.
Basketball's got a lot to think about, man. They got a lot to look. I think they all got a lot to think about. I think the NFL, regardless of what the numbers are, clearly they're going to have a lot to think about in figuring out where this goes. But no, we've decided what's floating this boat post-COVID, right? Like a good friend of mine made a great point about 2020. He said 2020, it was a catalyst. Everything that was going to happen after 2020 was going to happen. It was just going to happen faster. Yeah. And if we stop and look back at how sports and many things have changed since then, like, for example, the NCAA tournament, I don't want to call it a demise, the men's NCAA tournament, right? That's one thing. We got to make sure we call it the men's tournament now. It's a whole nother world. I don't care. Yeah. It's happening right now, and I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I got more interest in the women's tournament, but let me know when the games come up. Like, I ain't just watching any old body play, right? Yeah. Like, you let me know when the games come up. It was headed that direction before COVID. They took that year off. Outside of that time that Carolina ended that whole rivalry they had with Duke, I ain't really been paying that much attention.
They ended it? I like that. All right.
Over. It's over. There is no rivalry anymore. They just play every year.
I'm with you. It's over. UNC won. The war is over. The other point that I wanted to make that you reminded me of when you brought up the tournament is if I was ever to like write a book, this is the topic that I feel like I would focus on, is like the balance between the professionalization in sports from youth all the way up to pro sports, and also like the business interests. And you made the point that this is not why any of us are here when it's talking about making it more about gambling. And I hate to be this old curmudgeonly guy, but I actually don't hate to be the get off my lawn, it was better back in my day. But I do think there is some balance between maximizing profit and having a sport. And I think that some of this pushes us further in the direction of maximizing profit. And it's funny that we see the women's college basketball game thriving in this time. And it feels like they are in the earliest stages of that transition, where there's like a sweet spot where the business influence makes the game better. And then the business influence takes over the game to a point where it gets less and less attractive, and the pressures are, how can we best monetize this? And the decisions to monetize it, on occasion, they conflict with the quality of the product. and it's unavoidable. When you are faced with that decision, I believe, maybe this is like some nostalgia whitewashing, but I believe that there were times when you would make that decision and people would err on the side of what they thought was best for the game, air quotes. That decision ain't being made anymore, right? It feels like the decisions that are being made is like, what's going to make us the most money? And something's going to be lost when you have two priorities. You're forced to choose between those two priorities. And I don't think that we've been choosing. I feel like we've been choosing the wrong one more and more lately.
Well, I was just reading a book that raised a very interesting point that I had never considered, which was that what if profit maximization was not always the goal?
Yes.
And it hasn't always been the goal. This is actually a relatively new phenomenon. And I think what is different now, of course, you could say that these leagues have always been about money and da-da-da. Okay, I get it, right? But the bottom line is not everybody has felt like they had to squeeze every dime out of what it was that they were doing. Especially at the level of money that we're talking about that people are making now. Like, not everybody felt like they had to do that at every turn.
We have a bit revisionist history of how things were compared to how they are now. I believe that the NFL is the thing I've been closest to, that real business people, and I don't mean that as a compliment, but real business people just got to the NFL. If you think about the 100-year history, they just got to the NFL. Like, analytics is just getting to sports. Like, sports was a side thing that was not, and like, I get it. A lot of people cared about profit and they had vision for building something bigger, but you can tell by the way the salaries changed, the way the backgrounds of the people in the game changed, front offices, like you getting MBAs and people off of Wall Street. Like, this is relatively new. I feel like in the early 2000s, I know Moneyball was before that, but the game has changed. And I don't know what to call what it was before, but it was not as heavily tilted towards profit maximization as it is now. And I don't know when the flip happened, but we all felt it, and we all know that it's different now, that the people who were running it, maybe they didn't understand how to be as ruthless and efficient a businessmen as the men and women who are running it now. But it is a lot different. And I'm going to be the old man yelling on my lawn when y'all talk about how good everything is now. I'm like, hey, but it was better when. It was better when.
No, I mean, in this, it's the thing I always say when people start talking about like private equity coming into sports, and my argument always is, when's the last time private equity came in and made something better? You know, and I find, and I get this for a lot of younger people, especially, like, again, and I do not recall when I was in my 20s being nearly as resentful of older people as I feel like the people in their 20s and maybe even early 30s are now. Like, I just don't recall it. Like, I've made this point before, and then they get mad all over again. Like, I was talking about it with the Jordan LeBron thing, and I'm like, I don't feel like the older generation is nearly as angry and resentful in this argument as the younger ones are. And maybe it's because of the position that I'm in, right? Like, I can recognize the possibility that I could be wrong, but the anger that I was met with when I said that did not do anything to dissuade me from my initial hypothesis, right? Like, and I get it on a number of levels. I think they don't realize the people they need to really be mad at are dead, but they, you know, like the level of anger that I see age-wise in this pop up is just kind of like, wow. But I promise you, man, on a lot of these things, hear us out. Like, if you can hear some of the stuff that we talk about, you might be able to make your shit better when it come around your time to make it go. Because no, man, like, the soul does feel like it has been removed from what is fundamental about so many of the things that we ultimately have come to enjoy, whether it be sports, be music, just and we're just talking about like entertainment stuff, because that's basically what the artistic class is now. Like, what it used to be plays, but that's not what it is anymore. It's television, it's movies, it's all of this stuff. And look, I'm talking to people who make things happen, right? People who do very important things, and they are disheartened by the way the profit maximization has sucked the soul out of everything.
And it happens over and over again, and we allow it to happen over and over again. And I'm certainly not longing for a time when, I don't know, Paul Brown was the owner of, well, anyway, I'm not longing for that time, but there's something to be said for a mom and pop restaurant being bought by investment firm or private equity firm or bought up by a bigger chain, to your point, the soul is going to leave. That don't mean that it won't be more efficient and more effective and more productive a machine. But there's something in using words like soul, I think it's easy for people to dismiss this conversation, but I think that people know what we're talking about. You know the difference between a manufactured boy band pop song that just hits. Don't mean it ain't fun, but you know the difference between that and, I don't know, blues, whatever. Like, we all recognize that there's a difference between that. And we recognize when it's happening. And you and I are recognizing that it's happening to sports. And everybody, and not everyone, but lots of people around us are like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. you dumb. And I've had this conversation with my kids a number of times where it's like when they're having, and I mean, you have to have your bumps and bruises as you learn and you get older. But sometimes I try to help them avoid them. And I've told them a number of times, I don't know how often it sinks in, is like, part of being a genius is being able to learn from someone else's experience. And listen here, I've been 10. Like, maybe I'm not 10 now. Maybe I'm not 10 in your classroom, but I've been 10. I've done it before. So to your point about like resenting older people, like, and this ties back into some of the Asian culture stuff that we talked about. And like, I'm not steeped in Japanese culture, but you get the sense from reading that people suspect or people present the idea that they have a different value for that life experience. That's something that we ain't never done. We always like the new, young, hot thing. That's what's young, who's 20, who dropped out and started a company. They gonna build it. They got all the answers. The 80-year-old did it. They've seen it happen 14 times already.
Yeah. I will say this, though. One thing about the cold-hearted capitalism, I will bring this part up. There is an argument that is a little more fun or a little easier to work for the cold-hearted capitalists because at least I know what we doing, right? Get this done, hit these numbers, we gonna be all right. I don't know if you don't ever work for Touchy-Feely, but Touchy-Feely, you don't know what the hell going on here. You're like, why am I even being good at my job? Bro. I don't understand what the point was of me being good at my job. Touchy-feely, like I've been in America way too long. Like when you go to France and you be like, yo, it's 9 o'clock. I want to croissant. It's Monday. Why y'all ain't open? We're not worried about money. And I say my first thought whenever I'm over there is like, y'all ain't trying to get no money. Don't nobody want to get no money. I don't understand. Like when I want my capitalism, I want it.
So first of all, I feel like I just made an argument for the presidential candidates that we have coming up. That was not what I was trying to do about being 80 and knowing stuff. But also, yeah, there are good things and bad things with everything. And I am with you. There are lots of things about this modern society that I love. I am not complaining about Uber or Uber Eats. I'm not complaining about Amazon or all the other things. But you just recognize that there are trade-offs that come with it and make sure you are comfortable with them trade-offs because I am with you. Get my croissant right when I want you to get your ass in here and work.
Now that I can make some things happen with this bread, I'm all about a little extra money can fix things. I'm trying to make it happen. Let me tell you something about this capitalism, right? I'll never forget this. You know, my dad is body. I've said this for a long time. My daddy is body. And when I lived in Miami, my parents came to visit me. Before I moved, I was like, yo, I want you guys to come down and visit me. And I was living in this place, and it was like super Miami, like all whited out, all of this, had views on both sides of water, had a rooftop situation. Like I was really making it happen in that place. It was a terrible place to live, by the way. It looked great. It was functionally flawed, we shall see. My daddy came in there, I'll never forget. And he walked in that living room, and he looked out that window, and he saw that view of that water, and he saw that sun hitting that water. And I just watched him just stand there, just his hands on his hips, just like, wow, right? Because my daddy loves water. Like it's my thing. He always wanted to get a place at the beach. That's his bag, man. He just out there looking at it and just smiling. Like he stretches the time, just out there staring at it. And I remember at some point he came back and he looked at me and he said, you know, I might have to rethink some of my views on the ruling class. Hey, man.
Classic.
Hey, man. Look. Unfortunately, the only way to get some of this nice stuff is to get a whole lot of money. And it shouldn't be that way. And I hope that one day you are able to figure out how to crack the code. Because right now, I got to say, it's working out. I'm not saying it's working out as well for everybody, but I'd be lying if I said it hadn't worked out that well for me.
Yeah, I mean, who gonna get there and then want to change the system? Like once you get there, like it's like you can talk bad about it all you want, but once you get there, it's like, oh, well, okay, things are a little bit easier. It's the small things, like the view and all that, and nice house. It's the small things that you were talking about, where it's like throw a couple extra dollars on here and you ain't gotta wait in line. That's like. To tell you how much I spend at Disney World just so we can avoid all the nonsense they got. Yeah. While we are exposing some parts of this that we don't like, I'm certainly not pretending like I'm unhappy with the way that things have worked out for me personally, but I ain't gonna pretend like it ain't. It's
like I'm not saying it's a blowout per se, right? Like, you know, like
capitalism got some dubs. They taking us to game 7. Capitalism is taking every time we go to game 7. That shit coming down to free throws.
But I acknowledge that's for me.
Yeah,
I don't know how the hell the rest of y'all gonna get this. It's over. It's like if you ain't get in this door a little while ago, it is over, dog. OVER over.
Capitalism got a first round bye in my tournament. They are skipping the first round. They are skipping the first round, boy. I recognize that there are many issues with it, and I will voice those complaints, or not complaints, those concerns on public platforms. However,
hey, and look, when the revolution meet the capitalism in the bracket, you know who I'm rooting for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna hide some of this money before y'all win. I done seen what y'all did in them other places. I'm like, what money? I ain't got no money. What are you talking about?
In the spirit of this network, I'm rocking one of them Mama Kelsey split jerseys at that tournament. a split jersey, like, go capitalism.
It's funny. I've been seeing people online talk about how I be out here defending capitalism. I'm like, no, I don't be defending capitalism. I just don't lie. Capitalism's been not so bad to me. It has not been great for the world. I can tell you everything that's terrible about it. It doesn't need to be shut down. Hell, there's some arguments to be made. It's already been shut down already. But no, it is flawed or whatever. But I am not going to act like I wasn't over here 7-Eleven, even backdoor Lil Joe. I can't pretend like that didn't happen.
Well, what I'm not going to stand for, y'all going to have to fix racism before y'all come for my capitalism benefits. Like,
but that's the problem, man.
It's all connected.
That's the problem, though. The capitalism and the racism are so intertwined in such a way that you can't really divorce them. Like, you know, like one could make the argument that racism, in a way, assisted your ability to get your fame and fortune, because otherwise, some of these fast white boys might have been competing with you. You know what I'm saying? But that sism took it in a whole nother direction.
They felt like they had other opportunities, and they looked at me and said, "Nah, I can't mess with that." You're right. I had a job that was segregated only for black folks. Shout out Coop.
You got the only good paying segregated job. Playing quarterback. And it's literally the only one. Because if a white dude show any flash of basketball potential, don't you worry. Somebody gonna try to give you $1 million. You try to play corner, don't you worry. You'll be playing safety.
Put your ass in slot. Get your ass out there. You're going to be doing running routes. You better play receiver, lad. McConkey, get your ass out there and run some routes.
I'm so worried at how much of a sellout I sounded like when we got to rolling about that capitalism. I'm not a sellout, though, I promise you, but I can't lie. I can't. I'm going to say this last thing, and this will be in line with what I was talking about. But we was talking about the platinum and how I know them cats wouldn't get the platinum. I ever tell you the story about the time I went to go get a Rolex?
Yep. I want to hear it again.
Yeah. So if those of y'all don't know, when I got my first big deal, I went to get a Rolex. I wasn't trying to get no crazy Rolexes. Quite honestly, I still be going places. You know what I'm saying? Where I don't need to be out here throwing it in people's faces. Right. I still got some spots I go to. Right. And so I go in, and it's so funny because I walk in and it's this dude and this woman, and the dude elbowed the woman to make her come help me because he was so sure I wouldn't try to spend no money. Anyway. So I look at a watch, it's looking extra dope. And I'm like, oh, I like that watch. Tell me about it. And she goes, oh, yes, that watch, it only comes in the platinum, da-da-da. And she keeps talking. And I say, well, how much does it cost? She says, and it costs $89,000 or $84,000. And as I'm hearing, as she goes from A to T, A-D, I'm like, okay, how do I move off of this watch onto another watch without just broadcasting, hey, baby, I ain't got no $89,000, right? Like how do I get over there as smoothly as I possibly can? Because I was just, and that's how I know them cats wasn't out here rocking no platinum. If that little bit of platinum made that watch $84,000.
I feel you. As where I stand now, I feel like you should have just said, "Oh no, that's too rich for my blood." But I wouldn't have said that either. All of us got some personal pride, insecurities. I don't try. Oh well, I kind of don't like the way that second hand moving. I like the way the $20,000 second hand move better.
But it was already after that white man had decided I was not worth his time and sent me off to his friend. And look, I'm not one to try to prove none to these people. Like, I got to watch that I liked. I wouldn't go do that just to show this white man something. But I do remember this. So the thing at the Rolex store is you buy a Rolex, they tell you congratulations. The most arrogant thing any business has ever done. Congratulate me for spending $10,000 on a watch.
They give you champagne too, right?
Yes, champagne, and they say congratulations. But before I got the champagne, first person to tell me congratulations was that sucker. And he was salty. Congratulations. And then walked away, missing out on that commission. Commission wasn't even that much, man. Even still, he thought he knew. You know what he need to do? He need to watch more sports.
Yeah, you 6'4". He should have automatically been like, hey, this brother knows something.
I mean, I was underdressed. I admit that. But it was like New Year's Eve, like the morning of New Year's Eve or the 30th or something like that. I was definitely underdressed. I did not, even still, it's Miami. You should know by now. Anybody might, I ain't going to say anybody might have money. Anybody might be able to get through the process of purchasing something, whether they have money or not. You get your commission. But that is Domonique Foxworth. Check him out on the Domonique Foxworth Show. Available where all fine podcasts are given away for free. My man, I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Also, voicemail line 323-596-7767. 323-596-7767. Ask me anything. 323-596-7767. We do this thing 3 times a week. Sean, you handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Now, remember, follow the right time. Rate us, review us, subscribe, like, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.